Hi there. In this QuickBooks Online video, we'll take a quick look at accounts receivable. We'll look at creating customers, modifying customers, and a few of the transactions in accounts receivable. So I'm using the US test drive. I'll just choose I'm not a robot here. Continue. And I'm at the dashboard. When I open up the test drive, I'll quickly create a new customer. So we do that under Sales, Customers, and then New Customer. It gives me the dialog for the new customer. I'm just going to add a little bit of information here. So I'm going to add Sally Smith. So as I do that, it populates the customer display name, which is a required field. I'm going to add an email. In lesson 2, in level 2, we'll take a look at what this communication looks like as well. And I'll quickly add a phone number. You can add additional information if you like, mailing address, whatever you like. There's some physical addresses there, some notes and attachments you can add. So you can add PDFs about the customer if you like. Primary payment method, that'll be the default when transactions are open for this customer. Credit limit, you'll be alerted if a customer exceeds that limit. We can add an opening balance. Again, we'll look at that in level 2. There's a little bit more to it than just adding the balance, and I'll choose Save. So again, that's creating a customer. To modify a customer, you can go to the same place. So again, Sales, Customers. You get a list of all of your customers. I'm going to modify Kate Wellen. So I'll find her. You can use the search if you like. It's a short list, so I'll just click directly on Kate Wellen. And we choose Edit. That little flag is letting you know that when you open up a customer, just like on the supplier side, the AP side, you'll see all of the transactions for that customer as of the filter. And I'll choose Edit. We're going to change your email. And I'm going to add a primary payment method. Again, this will be the default payment method that comes up when we create a transaction for Kate Wellen. I'll use check. And we have terms as well. Terms are also global. We can find those in the gear icon, accounts and settings, but you can set terms if they're different than what you have set globally. I'm just going to choose Save. And I'm also going to modify Beer photography. So I go back to customers and find those folks. There they are, Beer. And again, I'm going to add a primary payment method, so I'll choose Edit, and down to the bottom here, they're going to pay by check generally, and Save. So the next thing I'll do is quickly add a transaction for a customer. The transaction type I'm going to use is receipt. What a receipt is a sale to a customer when they pay at the time of purchase. So we'll take a look at that. So it's sales. We can choose sales, all sales, new transaction. It shows us all of the transactions that are available for our customers. And sales receipt is what I'm going to choose. So for a sales receipt, first of all, I'm going to choose my customer. So the customer I'm creating right now, it's Joe Novak. We can see if he exists in our customer list by starting to type his name. So Joe. So there is no Joe. So when I finish typing up his name, and this is my favorite way to add a customer on the fly, I can hit Tab, and then that same pane that popped up before pops up. I'll just quickly populate the company name as well. And I'm all done with creating him. Again, you could add additional information. In real life, I'd populate quite a bit more. we're living in the information age. It's best to have as much information about your customers as possible. There's a bit of CRM involved in QuickBooks Online as well. So this will be today. Payment method. So this is what differentiates a check, or sorry, a sales receipt from a bill. So if I click on the drop down here, we have all of these payment methods. So basically, again, a sales receipt is when the customer pays at the time of purchase. This does not affect accounts receivable. We'll use check. The check number is 104. We'll deposit to checking. Probably in real life, you wouldn't be depositing directly to checking unless they're paying via debit. You would probably put it in a cash box, your cash register. That could be called undeposited funds. So this is another form of bank account. I'm just going to put it directly into the checking though. Now, the main difference you see here between accounts receivable transactions and accounts payable transactions is, notice we don't have a category section. We only have an item section. Let's see if it's available under the gear icon. You can change what you see on these transactions with that gear icon. Yeah, so we don't have the items available. This is true with the desktop version as well. So we're selling them some trimming. And 4 hours of trimming at $35 an hour, and we're also selling them some pest control. There we are, 2 hours of pest control. Now, you notice I accidentally clicked in the line below the line I wanted to select. So that added an additional line item. In the past, I'm not sure if this is true now, but in the past, if we had a blank row, the program wouldn't let us continue. So I always make sure I just trash that blank row there. And I should be good. I'll save and close. So the next thing I do with accounts receivable is I'll create an estimate, and then I will then convert that estimate into an invoice. So again, 2 other transaction types. So we have an actual estimates tab there, and we can choose create estimate. It lets me know that we just recently changed. I'm not sure when this happened, but I think it's within the last couple of weeks. They changed the way the estimates look, and there's a couple of the options have moved around as well. I'm going to close this. I'm going to close this little autofill. Again, I do need to investigate that a little further. Another way to create an estimate, I'm just going to close this. Another way to create an estimate is to choose all sales, new transaction, and estimate. Again, the new transaction contains all of the transactions that are available. So this is going to be for Dylan Solfank. There he is there. For yesterday, I'll give them a week to accept. I'm not sure if there's a standard. And he's asking us about some design. Sorry, I'll use yesterday as a date. And he's asking us about a design. And for his job, it'll probably take 16 hours to design his landscape. And we'll choose, in real life, we could choose review and send is what I would do, but the test drive doesn't actually allow us to send via the program. So I'm just going to save and close. So now to convert an estimate to an invoice, it's very similar to what we did on the AP side when we converted an order to a bill. So I'm going to create a new invoice. So new transaction, invoice. And again, they let us know that they've just recently changed the way they look and behave. So I'm going to close that. And we've got some additional options over here on the right. This is very new, as well as the stuff on the bottom. So if I choose Dylan here, then just like we saw on the AP side, the estimate pops up, so we can convert an estimate to an invoice. Now an invoice in accounts receivable, what it means is that the customer will pay later, so it affects accounts receivable. And I'll go ahead and add that invoice to the estimate, or sorry, estimate to the invoice. And this is going to be today, due date net 30. And we're all set. We'll save and close. In real life, again, I would definitely share that with my customer when I create it. So I'm going to create a recurring invoice, so very similar to what we did with recurring transactions elsewhere. So I'm going to create an invoice, so we can also go invoices, create invoice, so invoices, create invoice, or we can go all sales, new transaction, invoice, get to the same place. So I'm going to create an invoice for Cool Cars. And they want us to come by every week and do 4 hours of gardening for them. So I'm going to start today and choose some gardening. There it is there, 4 hours. Yeah, now you notice we have printer download, we have save, save and new, save and close, review and send, and share link. So quite a few options to do with this thing. So one of them is save. So again, as we saw before, what that does is it processes the transaction, that is posts. Oh, I just noticed I forgot to put a rate in here. $30. Make sure you do that. There we go. So again, I want to save the transaction and leave it available so I can create a recurring transaction for this. So I choose save. It processes the invoice or posts the invoice and leaves all of the information available. So I can choose manage here, and then this little sidebar pops up, and I'm going to choose scheduling. So it's slightly different than the old way of creating recurring transactions, and I want to make this a recurring make invoice recurring, not payment, but invoice. So I'll make this scheduled. We can automatically send emails, so every time that this invoice gets created, it'll automatically send, which is very powerful. Print later is fine. Start date will be, I'll choose next week. I already saved today's, so I'll just create one for next week. So that is the 23rd. Hopefully it never ends. It'll be a cash cow, and we'll save the template. So again, we've created an estimate, a receipt, an invoice. So if we find that we've made a mistake and we need to change something, again, the steps are exactly the same as elsewhere in the program. So I'm going to find an invoice, and then I'm going to go ahead and modify it. So we can choose the magnifying glass. Depending on your browser and where you are in the program, you may have a search field up here as well. And I'll choose the magnifying glass here. I'll choose advanced transaction search. And I'm going to find some invoices. And I'm looking for an invoice from Freeman Sporting Goods. So I'll scroll down to find that. I'm looking for invoice 1030. There it is down there. I'll choose that. And it opens up the invoice. I don't need this manage screen. We can get this back with manage, by the way. And it turns out that we only sold them 10 bags of sod. We recorded 15. We thought we sold them 15, but it turns out we only sold them 10. So we're going to modify this and save and close. And yes. I'm still at my search my invoices screen. I'm also going to delete Mark Cho's invoice. So there it is there. Turns out that this transaction didn't happen after all. So we can choose more actions, and then we have delete, void. We don't have reverse, but void is very similar. Again, delete will remove it from all. It will remove it from the journal reports, whereas void, it'll still be displayed. It'll just be displayed as void. So I'm going to delete it. I like to keep my journal reports uncluttered and delete transaction. So next I'm going to collect on some of the amounts owing from my customers. But before that, we can quickly look at a report that has something to do with that, which is under reports, standard reports. And then we have who owes you and sales and customer. That's all accounts receivable. The accounts receivable aging summary is a very common report. Allows us to see everything we're owed and how old some of those debts are. So we'd probably want to collect on the larger ones that are getting a little older. So probably this column. These ones seem okay, but they're pretty low. This means we owe them money. There's been a credit note applied. So basically, a good tool for debt collection. We can take a quick look at some of the debts that are getting old and make sure we collect on those. So to receive a payment from a customer for an invoice, remember invoices are our transactions that affect accounts receivable. We go to sales, we can go to invoices, or choose invoices here. It shows us all of the invoices, shows that these ones are all overdue, and some of the other ones that are due in a couple of days, as well as a bunch of invoices that are paid and deposited. So I'm going to go ahead and collect the invoice from Cookies by Kathy. See if I can find it here. There it is there. Notice you do have the ability to filter this as well. So again, Cookies by Kathy, and we can choose receive payment. She's paying via check. It's going into checking. The check number is 54321, sounds made up. And she's paying us for this entire amount. So we can choose save and close. Weisskopf is also paying us. We'll find them. Again, receive payment. Today, check, checking. They're paying with check 367. They're paying the full amount. If they aren't paying the full amount, by the way, you can change the amount here. And we'll choose save and close. And Paulson. Again, check. Checking. Check number is 497. And save and close. Oh, I just noticed that I accidentally entered the full amount for Weisskopf. So I can go ahead and find that transaction and change that. It turns out, in my notes I say $200, but it turns out he actually paid $300. So I'm going to go find that payment. So if I click on my magnifying glass, advanced transaction search, we look for a transaction type. So notice that we have a bill payment. So that is when we pay a bill. If you scroll down a little further down here, we have payment. So if I look at that payment, you see that this is our customers. So the payment transaction type is for invoice payments, whereas bill payment is for when we pay a bill for one of our vendors or suppliers. So I'm going to go find that Weisskopf, and it turns out we actually paid $300. He actually paid $300, not $375. And save and close. And yes. So when we go to look at all of the invoices, we'll see that Weisskopf Consulting will still show up as available to be paid. Now we also have refunds and credits. Depending on the accounting program you use, some will just simply use negative values for refunds and credits. That's a little bit simpler, but if we want to track all of our refunds and credits, QuickBooks does a good job of that. They track all of the refunds and credits in a particular account. So to receive or to give a customer a refund, we can choose sales, all sales, and then new transaction, and we have refund receipt. And we also have delayed credit, which is kind of in the same ballpark. Refund receipt. And previously Paulson Medical had bought some rocks from us, and they don't like the shape of them, so they're returning them. Some of them, that is. So I'll choose Paulson. And this is today. And we're giving them a check, refund from a particular account. It's coming from checkings, and they return some rocks. They return 2 rocks. We sell our rocks for $22.50 each. They're worth it. Depending on your region, you may have tax on something like this. I'm going to leave the tax on. Generally, I believe in California, you'll pay tax on products. A rock would be a product, but not on services. And I'll choose Save and Close. So that's accounts receivable in a nutshell. Again, creating customers, modifying customers, creating receipts, which are pay now transactions, estimates, which are similar to orders, and then converting that estimate to an invoice, which are similar to bills. Again, a bill is a purchase on account, and then we received payments for those invoices from our customers, as well as finding those transactions and changing them. Thanks so much for watching.